What's up, y'all? Winnie here, and I can finally talk normally again, which means it's time for more SCP Wiki. I thought this was the episode with the double Dr. Wondertainment, so I was worried I wasn't going to be able to do that, but we're not even at that point yet. So today we're going to be reading Larry the Loving Llama, University Ball Cap, A Mother's Love, The Star the Hateful, and An Absence of a Perfect Medium. Let's check out that there llama, if it even is actually a llama. That doesn't look like it's actually a llama. It says it's safe, though, whatever it is. Although it has a whole separate page with an incident on it. Oh, the incident is 1296-1545. Alright, so SCP-1545 is to be kept in Containment Locker 1545 at Site 40, with access barred to all personnel with a clearance level under 3. Following that incident, testing with additional anomalous objects requires approval of personnel with a clearance level of 4 on a case-by-case basis. No other containment procedures are necessary at this time. Description: SCP-1545 is a two-person llama costume wearing galoshes. It can be opened along its midsection. Its interior is consistent with an average costume of its type, with space for two people, one with their legs in the rear legs bending over into the midsection, and the other standing in front with their two legs in the costume's front legs, standing straight up in the costume's neck. A tag near the costume's rear refers to it as Larry the Loving Llama. SCP-1545's anomalous effects do not become apparent until it's worn. Is this also a Dr. Wondertainment thing? Or is it something more cursed than that? It says safe, but eh. Subjects wearing 1545 will become extremely in character, with the frontal person speaking as if they were Larry the Loving Llama, and the rearward person performing various jigs. It behaves in an extremely docile manner. Subjects inside are not physically able to exit without being pulled out and show no desire to do so, although they will not resist removal. Thus forcefully removed from 1545, subjects will continuously act as Larry the Loving Llama until they expire. Most common cause of death is dehydration. Infection is also common due to the non-attendance of soiled clothing. Subjects with a dead partner will still act as their appropriate half until they also expire. Removed subjects show memory of their time within 1545, however, they show no knowledge of its anomalous properties. Subjects do not show any negative attitude towards their time in 1545, instead behaving as if their actions were typical. It was discovered by authorities somewhere in an abandoned suburban home. The victims had died from dehydration. Autopsy indicated that the rearward operator had died one day earlier and had severe bruising on her body from being dragged throughout the household by their frontal partner. It was confiscated by Foundation personnel after its anomalous properties had been discovered. Class A amnestics were administered. Audio log A. Interview D5362 having just been removed from 1545. Interviewer Dr. Fredericks. Subject had been inside the suit for approximately 3 hours. Hello, D5362. Good afternoon, sir. How are you feeling? A little exhausted, sir. Oh yes, I saw all that dancing around. Must have gotten tiring. It was, sir, but you have to keep the people entertained. But surely you considered leaving to get a drink. And do that, sir. It would ruin the illusion. It's a talking llama wearing rain boots. What kind of illusion is that? Well, you just don't know Larry the Loving Llama like I do, sir. Log B. It's a different person this time. Oh, 1540, 5483 voicing Larry the Loving Llama. Dr. Fredericks. They have been inside for 2 days. The voice was extremely raspy due to dehydration. Hello, 5483. Oh, I'm not James. I'm Larry the Loving Llama. Okay. Larry, how are you feeling? Super de-duper, doctor. My bum's a bit sluggish today, but that's okay. Note, the rearward operator had died approximately 2 hours earlier. They've been dragging them. Larry, are you aware of the men inside you? You mean my helpers? Yes, your helpers. My helpers love helping me. Together we bring joy to everyone. Are you aware that D5484 is dead, Larry? He's just taking a nap, Doc. Black comedy. If you say so. But it sounds like the suit itself is technically alive, but only when there's people in it, and that's probably what's happening. Mind control shenanigans. University ball cap. I would assume it's safe if it's just a hat. If it's just a hat. SCP-1546 is to be contained in a triple locked safe at Site 38, with access to the safe principally restricted to the head researcher Dr. Somebody. Under no circumstances are any disposable dudes to be involved in the testing of 1546, or any of them involved to have their termination dates altered. Any researcher doing so is to be considered affected by 1546. Personnel engaged in conversation with subjects using it are to have their clearances revoked until 30 days have passed since the conversation. Foundation researchers are to monitor military and political communication channels, official and unofficial, to determine if any iterations of 1546 remain uncontained. Description: SCP-1546 is a slightly damaged green baseball cap size large, with a large letter W in yellow on the front. A tag inside the cap reads, "Popular Topics brand cap. Dry clean only. For novelty use only." It demonstrates no abnormal qualities when worn by subjects when they are alone. However, if they are wearing it during conversation with others, uh, subjects wearing 1546 during conversation with others will exhibit greater confidence and persuasive ability than without it. Subjects wearing 1546 will have reported a greater sense of intuition and empathy towards others during verbal interactions. However, this empathy extends only to helping subjects achieve their goals through manipulation of conversational partners. Many subjects describe a feeling of knowing what their conversational partner is thinking, combined with a mild euphoria when this information is used to the subject's advantage. As a result, previously reserved and shy individuals become more gregarious, even cocky, at the realization of their power over others. Subjects wearing 1546 will find the hat's presence tolerated even in places that typically forbid similarly informal headwear. The effect remains even when the hat is covered or otherwise not visible, including when worn under other headgear, such as U.S. Army PAGST headgear or football helmets. Subjects wearing 1546 in the past have been able to increase their social standing in high school, college, military, or business environments, persuade others to make personal or business arrangements harmful to themselves, alter the personal or political opinions of others, convincing them to act in support of either mainstream or extremist groups regardless of previous affiliation, or convince people to perform unsafe or unethical acts against themselves or others. A standard X-ray of the object revealed that the button atop the cap contained an anomalous object. Cross-analysis with the Foundation database revealed this to be a device similar in make to SCP-877. Disassembly of the cap allowed for further examination of the chip. Electron microscopic analysis revealed a label on the chip reading Brainbox Mach 10, copyright that 1961, I believe that is. Analysis of the chip circuitry indicated indeterminable distinctions from the primary circuit board of 877. Electron microscopy revealed minor additions similar in appearance to an internal antenna for a cellular telephone, along the chip's main body. Chip showed no signs of alteration and appears to have been manufactured deliberately. Chip did not behave like similar 877 iterations, refusing to replicate when exposed to living tissue. However, analysis of the hat suggests that the chip is capable of interacting with nearby brains through reception of radio messages in the delta band range, 1 to 4 Hz, and broadcasts of messages in the theta and alpha band ranges, 4 to 13 Hz. Addendum: the recovery log. I assume that's December the 2nd, 2000 something, and 2000 something teens, respectively. Two instances have been located. One was discovered among the personal effects of an 18-year-old girl who committed suicide on, I guess that's November the 8th something. Note recovered read simply, "I can't take the lies anymore." And a U.S. Navy submarine captain nominated for promotion to Rear Admiral in spite of having one of the worst field records in the fleet. Class B amnestics were provided to the latter. Containment protocols modified to locate additional iterations of 1546. From the personal effects of the two former possessors of 1546, letters were located. Both had identical letterheads reading Alexilva University, Department of Natural Philosophy, and handwritten notes on them. The girl's note contained several mathematical formulas similar to the work produced by Albert Einstein and Nathan Rosen on the subject of space-time bridges, though the formulae rely on slightly different mathematical constraints and operators than those typically used in such work. Below the formula was written only, "Here, kitty, 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 come to Papa." Let's see. And that university goes to a tale called Wayward. The captain's note contained a series of directions derived from local geological phenomena near somewhere in Tennessee. Below, the directions were written: "We give these to our kids as toys. I know you're there. I know you're interested. Dean Hailcloud." Since the acquisition of the last message, the area around the given coordinates has been monitored by Task Force Row 1, the professors, assigned to search for signs of university activity. And that university has its own tag, so I guess there's multiple things of that university. Probably 877 for one. A mother's love. It's Keter. Structure found during manifestation of 027 of 1547. Is a mother's love Keter? I don't know. Let's find out. MTF Sigma 8 Vincero is to locate the area in which 1547A is currently manifesting. All civilians are to be removed from the area under the guise of a public safety issue and questioned. Unaffected civilians may be released after being treated with a Class C amnestic. Affected civilians, it used to say including that group but no longer does, may be detained until 1547 demanifests or be treated with Class B amnestic. And it used to say A is to be engaged with lethal force until it demanifests. No other containment procedures are necessary, but as of June 2003, no force is allowed against A. Protocol Petrushka, devised by Dr. Razak, has been outlined below instead. Current containment protocol under Protocol Petrushka must be followed. Civilians in I don't know what that symbol means may be detained only during the day and in direct sunlight. Under no circumstances is MTF Sigma 8 or other non disposable dudes to interact with A or whatever that is during the nighttime. Failure to conform to Protocol Petrushka will lead to containment breach. All testing done to 1547 must be submitted for approval to Director Jethro and Dr. Razak. Protocol Petrushka. After positive identification of an SCP-1547 manifestation, the appropriate number of disposable dudes is to be escorted from the nearest available site by MTF Sigma 8 to the location where it is closest. It's approximately half the number of affected civilians as a part of whatever that symbol means. The disposable dudes should fail the whale test less than a 45. The selected disposable dudes must not be given any plastic or metallic tools, but protective gloves and headgear are allowed. Disposable dudes with physical disability should be encouraged to join. At night, the allotted disposable dudes should be allowed to join the 1547 whatever that is group. Sigma 8 should keep observance of A and that, but must not directly interfere during the nighttime. Civilians should be detained and brought to the nearest Foundation safe house for medical attention during the day if possible. However, no more than 3 civilians are allowed to be removed each day. Current status. A successful application of Protocol Petrushka has extended the manifestation for 245 days. It is expected to last until May 2018. Sigma 8 is to remain on high alert as Protocol Petrushka terminates. Description: SCP-1547 is a phenomenon associated with various Southeast Asian islands, in particular Sulawesi, possibly Sulawesi, 38% recorded cases, and Borneo, 26%. A manifestation refers to the appearance of A. A few days after the conclusion of the last event, A would manifest to a group of people hereby referred to as targets. No correlation has been found between different targets, and the largest recorded instance affected 354 individuals. It is not known whether there exists a limit. A is a vaguely humanoid entity of variable appearance. Witness interviews and field reports describe the entity to be approximately 2 meters tall and covered in black fur. Other than a pair of vaguely canine eyes, there are no other discernible facial orifices or features. While A has been observed to walk using bipedal movement, it more notably has been found to possess displacement abilities and would use this ability to evade physical damage. If A is unable to avoid the physical damage without leaving the area that it has manifested it, such as in the case of fire or extensive artillery assault, A would demanifest. No attempt at tracking has been successful as it has evaded all forms of physical contact. A also seems to avoid sunlight, mainly manifesting at night, and would hide out of sight during the day. SCP-1547-A is capable of a minor hallucinogenic/compulsion effect. However, the effect is weak enough that persons that score 70 or higher on the Whale scale, 1.6 of global populace, have undergone rigor anti-compulsion training and are able to withstand its effect. Subjects that are unable to withstand a compulsion effect report a visual hallucination where they invariably see a tall wooden structure. During a manifestation, subjects that are unable to withstand the hallucinations and compulsions, now designated whatever that is, I'll just call them chalice, will attempt to construct and build the structure, which is believed to serve as an altar. No two structures have been found to be the same, though repeated motifs have been seen if a manifestation is interrupted. At the completion of the structure, the majority of the chalice population typically would fall unconscious, except in rare occasions. Typically, at this point, the civilians in the chalice population can be safely retrieved and revived, usually needing to be treated for malnutrition and dehydration. Any remaining chalice members that did not would usually assist in A, who would usually use the structure for an unknown ritual that typically concludes with the death of A, or sometimes of a chalice instance. The Addendum 1 recorded manifestations for more information, and it does seem to be there. Structure found during manifestation 14 of 1547. Looks like a badly constructed fence. If the ritual is allowed to finish, it does not appear to have an immediate effect. However, in a few hours, all nearby plant life, in particular angiosperms, will start to wilt and wither. No plant species have been able to survive. The effect is irreversible at this point, and in the affected area, no plants have been able to grow. However, the anomaly does not affect animals or fungi. However, total destruction of local plant populations has devastating effects to the local ecosystem, and therefore local fauna populations invariably either die of starvation or migrate to unaffected areas. The affected area has an observed range of up to 25 kilometers, diminishing as it gets further from the origin of 1547. Civilians that were affected by 1547 and joined chalice groups, after medical attention, will be typically able to recall their activities during the influence under 1547, but extensive interviews were inconclusive. Civilians typically displayed no lasting effects other than a significant change in diet and a marked disdain for agricultural activities. Addendum 1. Is it going to be all the manifestations or just special ones? Manifestation 1. Location: Sirkin and Sarawak, to a group of 8 men working as farmhands and living together. It lasted for 7 days. Context: earliest known manifestation. It is unknown how many times 1547 has manifested before this, but is believed to be no more than 3 times. The Foundation was not alerted at the time of a possible anomaly. The record was obtained after the involved civilians were found unconscious around the structure that they had built and constructed based on police interview and evidence. Description: a large fig tree, Ficus obliqua, was stripped of its bark and all the leaves removed from the branches. A circular trench, approximately 5-meter radius, 2 meters deep, was dug around the tree, and all of the removed leaves were placed inside the trench. The 8 men then stood at equal distance from each other around the circular trench and urinated simultaneously, then fell unconscious. As this was constructed from interviews post-event, no record of what happened afterwards is available. Estimated affected area approximately 1.5 kilometer radius. Manifestation 2, near Ipel on Mindanao, to a village of approximately 30 people. It lasted 2 days. One member of the village had a whale score of 92, meaning she was able to resist the effects and notify relevant authorities. In her testimony to the police, she indicated that she was horrified by the sudden compulsion that her friends and family had and drove to the nearest village after a few hours of attempting to wake the villagers. Foundation notified of possible anomaly, but this account was similarly only available after civilian interviews and police reports. Description: several betel nut trees, Areca catechu, were dug up and arranged in a square array shape in an empty school soccer field, 5 by 5 squares with each square approximately 5 meters wide. At each section, a small pyramid of betel nuts was made in the center, aside from the center square, where a square hole was dug approximately 3 meters deep and filled with water, tainted red from betel nut juice that the villagers produced by chewing on betel nuts and then spitting into the hole. A was then observed submerging itself into the hole, after which the villagers fell unconscious. Estimated area approximately 3 kilometer radius. Manifestation 5, a seaside settlement to 4 people located near Thankima. It lasted 3 days, first time observed near a large body of water. Several driftwood branches were tied with vines into an impromptu raft where A drifted out to sea. It is then observed to break the raft apart and sink. Notably, 1547 does not seem to be affected by the seaweed in nearby waters, or affect the seaweed. The estimated area of effect was approximately a 20-kilometer radius. What did it do to the water? Kill all the fish? Manifestation 12. Location: a milk fruit orchard in southern Sulawesi, affecting 3 workers. It ended after 6 hours. Foundation intervention prevented it to finish. Context: the first time the Foundation deliberately stopped it from completion due to the devastating effects. While the teleportation was documented earlier, this manifestation overturned a previous hypothesis regarding A's remanifestation. Description: roots were gathered and crushed using rocks, and then the resulting pulp was carefully laid out on a flat stretch of road in a zigzagging pattern. Foundation agents intervened at this point and detained all of the Chalice civilians. A demanifested and remanifested in an apartment complex in Jakarta. Manifestation 13 was that apartment, and it was in Kramat Jati in eastern Jakarta. It lasted 3 hours. The Foundation failed to prevent the ritual. They don't know what the ritual was, but it affected a 3-kilometer radius. Addendum 2, a letter from Dr. Razak. To Director Jethro, I believe that based on our blissfully rare interactions with SCP-1547, we are posed with a unique dilemma. Doesn't seem very intelligent. Responds with very primal fear towards sunlight and gunfire, other forms of physical contact. I noted that it was not just humans that it avoids. 3 times now in the recordings that we have received, shows that even hares and certain birds trigger the physical demanifestation response. Right now, we have zero information regarding the origins of SCP-1547. Local folklore, the ritual-like nature of observed events and interviews conducted leads me to believe that there are supernatural elements to its origins. However, it seems that there's little more to SCP-1547 than what we've already observed. I am inclined to believe that the weak psychological influence in teleportation is the extent of its powers and hold no reality bending or similar abilities of other SCPs that may have religious or mythological origins. The deity is a rather weak one. As you know, SCP-1547's strongest direct influence is on local vegetation, and vegetation only. So far, it has only caused the deaths of 16 individuals over the course of 7 years under Foundation observation, with 11 of them being D-class personnel. The relatively low fatality should not be an indication of safety, however, as we have no way to reverse the effects once a ritual has taken place. Analysis of the soil samples affected gives us no reason of the widespread vegetation failure, as the chemical and biological composition are unaffected. The solution seems very obvious then. Prevent the ritual from completion, thus negating the only impact it is able to enact. Where it gets tricky. As I have indicated earlier, SCP-1547 does not seem very intelligent. Perhaps it is sentient, maybe even sapient, but not exactly the brightest, and, as I have already indicated, extremely stubborn. Initially, we thought that perhaps the SCP-1547 would cease its attempts if it was engaged with lethal force, as it manifests after it is engaged. One major problem arises out of this. We do not know where it goes. Currently, no way of attaching a tracking device has been found, and it has so far followed no pattern at all. During initial containment attempts, SCP-1547 were only mainly whizzing around in remote small villages, centered around Borneo, and affected around 10 people at most. However, we found that hostile reaction towards it drove it to slightly bigger settlements and towns and more urban areas, and started to appear farther and farther away from where we first started observing. When one sighting led us to an apartment complex in Jakarta, we knew we had a problem. With it going into more densely populated urban areas, it becomes increasingly hard to cover up the sightings, and the speed of building the structures needed for its rituals gets faster simply because more people are exposed and join the Chalice group. First observed manifestation had a Chalice size of 10 people, and since it was unhindered, took around 6 days to complete. The Jakarta incident affected around 300 people, and even though it only took Foundation agents around 2 hours to locate it after the first sighting, it was too late. Disrupting the building process, detaining the civilians, destroying the structure, all resulted in it demanifesting and remanifesting in denser and denser population centers in order to speed up the building process. At the same time, allowing it to complete the structure leads to irreversible devastation that we want to avoid. As we have shown repeatedly, SCP-1547 is not exactly the shiniest spirit in the fairy jar. Petrushka Protocol takes advantage of this. As it demanifests during the day, it is safe to sabotage the structures in a way that obstructs construction. The Petrushka Protocol is carefully compiled. Total destruction and obvious damage to the structure is avoided. Just as the Chalice folk only use their bare hands, sabotages that can be achieved without the use of tools are the only ones that evade detection. Any mechanical damage that requires the simplest of man-made tools, simple blades, mallets, or even flames, constitutes as a major sabotage. Complexity is not our friend here. Of course, it's highly ineffective. It's also the only method that really works. Follow what's written, we're safe. Break what is written and observed, we risk either exposure or environmental carnage. In a way, Protocol Petrushka is just a stalling technique. What usually takes a week or so to complete now has dragged on for months, and we project the current manifestation could potentially last up to a year. Of course, it's not a permanent solution. Minuscule, incremental progress is still made. However, this is the safest and least costly way that we have found to contain 1547, satisfying its very basic whims. In a way, we have created our own quasi-religious ritual, attempting to appease a minor deity while at the same time avoiding the negative consequences. I suppose this is how the ancestors of years past created their rituals. After all, what is a ritual if not to merely just placate a god? Minor deity for sure, but placated nonetheless. Protocol Petrushka, as scientific and mysterious as it sounds, is just a ritual. I hope this sheds more light on my device containment procedures. Best, Dr. Razak. Okay, so it sounds like the only reason it's keter is because if they try too hard to stop what it's doing, it gets worse and worse. And they're also not 100% sure what it's doing or why. But it's not one of the dangerous keters. It's just one of the, we can't actually stop it, but we can slow it down. And that's why it's keter. So that brings us to the Star the Hateful. If this one's not also keter, I will be shocked. If it's safe, I will be unbelieving. What the heck? It is keter. What is this? Welcome 056. You have one file pending review. Display file? Yes. Accessing file SCP-1548. Foundation satellites Malik Bell 1 through 10 will monitor the south pole of the sun for SCP-1548. The protocol Koyash Veer, however you say that, I don't know. All Foundation space stations and off-planet bases within the solar system will have the monitoring of the sun as their secondary mission objective. Connections will be maintained with major space agencies under Operation Stygian Iris for enhanced monitoring of the anomaly, with accurate information on the phenomena restricted to specified personnel. As it is not feasible to place limitations on all solar telescopes, who's looking at the sun with a telescope? That seems dangerous. It is expected that civilians will observe it on occasion. Foundation personnel embedded in scientific agencies will disseminate misleading information on 1548 and all thaumaturgic symbols that manifest, describing them as unusual but natural phenomena. All other information of the anomaly and related symbols is subject to standard Foundation censorship protocols. Thaumaturgic, does that mean that is two back-to-back god-themed keter SCPs in the 1500s? Why are there so many keters in the 1500s? We had a good stretch of not getting any, but what's going on, man? Why are the 1500s like this? Description. SCP-1548 is a designation of various anomalous solar phenomena primarily occurring at the south pole of the sun. There are three types of the events. 1. 6 equidistant ovular sunspots, approximately 40,000 kilometers by 15,000 kilometers in size, appear. The ends of the sunspots converge after 23 hours, often accompanied by with the formation of a solar prominence that typically takes the shape of thaumaturgic symbols. A large gaseous feature that extends off the sun's surface, normally forming a loop. Oh, it's describing what a solar flare is. Okay. A coronal mass ejection will then occur around the sunspots lasting 11 hours, with the prominence dissipating after 5 hours. 2. Begins similarly to 1, a solar prominence then forms from the site of the sunspots and breaks off from the sun, moving away from it and likely entering interstellar space, not face. This event lasts 2 hours. 3. The sunspots form thaumaturgical symbols which range in size. This can occur in conjunction with other events or separately. Unlike the previous two phenomena, these sunspots do not commonly manifest in a single area. The first recorded 1548 event was on May 17th, 1983, where a 3 event was observed, showing thaumaturgic symbol 2201V1 referred to Addendum 1, which is right there. The event was classified as extranormal event 9008 until similar occurrences were observed, leading to the classification of SCP-1548. Addendum: Thaumaturgical Symbol Identification. Department of Thaumaturgy has successfully identified and determined the nature of several symbols seen in 1548. Below is a list of the symbols denoted with V if they are a variation of the symbol. V1 denotes the original or first discovered version of the symbol. TS-2201V1, unnamed, seen only in 1548. If inscribed on any telescopic device by a person with thaumaturgic abilities, the device will show psionic entities with malicious intent towards the user. After a total of 4 hours of use, users without psionic abilities will experience symptoms of psychosis. TS-381V2, known as the Caliphastian Isle among various occultist groups. When affixed or projected onto a material, it will strengthen the material, enhancing its ability to absorb kinetic and electromagnetic energy. Materials may be hidden from sight as well. TS-1817V7, known as the 12 Holy Owls of Serenithium, or Serenithium, there we go. Origin among humans unknown. When the symbol is affixed to a weapon or object used with the intent to harm, any entity killed by the weapon will annihilate the immediate space around it. The size of the annihilation zone is proportional to the size of the entity killed. This annihilation zone has no effect on materials reinforced with 381. Of note is 61% of observed thaumaturgical symbols pertain to the anomalous Ortothan mythology and religious beliefs. The central aspects of Ortothan mythology are that the universe is the second universe to exist, and that it has been protected from extra-universal invasions by 7 guardian deities. Only one of these deities, Akmu Leusan, the Holy Fourth, is said to be alive in the present day. TS-1817 originates from the Ortothan occultists in the 1800s, and 381 has been used by the members of the Church of the Second High Toth, a prominent Ortothan group of interest, in avoiding capture by the Foundation. Why this is the case is unclear. Ortothan has its own hub. Addendum 2, Event 1548-29. On December 23, 2016, several 1 events occurred in rapid succession. Although interpretation of these symbols is still underway, 381V2, 1817V7, and 2201V1 manifested multiple times during these events. 20 non-anomalous Ortothan language symbols and phrases for protection formed as well. 47 hours later, 5 2 events occurred in the span of 2 hours. Over the next month, a dense cloud of ionizing radiation began forming around the solar system, surrounding the heliopause, a region of surrounding solar system where solar wind collides with the interstellar wind, creating a bubble around the solar system known as the heliosphere. Although initially at largely unnoticeable amounts, the cloud increased in magnitude until no light from the outside universe could enter by January the 20th of 2017. The origin of the cloud is presumed to be from the sequence of 1548 events, though the combined amount of particles produced was too small to form a structure on this scale. Of note is that Foundation telescopes have noticed thalamic tessellations resembling grids of pyramids periodically forming along the cloud. Patterns of grids of polygons formed when high amounts of thaumaturgic energy is released. As the night sky is now entirely altered, Foundation censorship protocols cannot be fully executed. The dissemination of incorrect scientific information regarding the solar system entering a dense cloud of cosmic dust is in progress. Scientific information describing the actual nature of the ionizing radiation cloud will be censored as per Contingency Galileo 2. Addendum 3, Recent Phenomenon. Or Phenomena. Following Event 1548-29, a high amount of significant anomalous phenomena have occurred. The following is a list of events updated as of January 26, 2017. First one is Christmas Eve. The Falcon Light suddenly lost 50% of its mass during its flight to the ISS, causing the death of all crew. What is Falcon? A commercial spacecraft made and launched by aerospace company SpaceX. Foundation satellites captured video of the event showing that half of the spacecraft disappeared along the midline, jettisoning any crew still inside into the Earth's atmosphere. Radio signals were received soon afterwards from beyond the heliopause. Although suspected to originate from the other half of the spacecraft, the decoded signals match no known spoken or written language. Notes: all launch plans for manned spacecraft have been cancelled both inside and outside the Foundation. The cover story involving a faulty booster has been disseminated. 5 days later, the ISS ceased standard communications and began broadcasting visual and auditory cognitohazards. All subjects exposed to any of the cognitohazards will enter a trance state and eventually have their brain vanish. 2 hours later, or after, Foundation satellites detect a sharp increase in thaumaturgic particles in orbit, all found to be originating from the Sun. The ISS abruptly changes trajectory to follow a course that will result in re-entry, certain to destroy the entire station in February of 2077. Not what? 17. Classification of the ISS as an anomaly is pending approval. On January the 2nd, SCP-2713 was found to be entirely empty. Most of the interior of the building has been destroyed. Claw marks, scorched walls, and blood strewn across the room indicate signs of a significant struggle. Reclassification to neutralized is pending approval. 3 days later, during a political demonstration in front of the Reichstag in Berlin, Germany, a thaumaturgic way leading to an unknown pocket dimension opened near the protesters. Horu Archpriest Farah Untius, Church of the Second High Toth leader and known person of interest, exited and announced that a shelter had been built. Further information is limited as all persons in the area promptly entered the way, including 2 undercover Foundation agents. The way closed immediately after. Censorship of the event is in progress. 5 days after that, an unknown Asian weapon, Probably Eigen weapon, was activated during a protest at Times Square. An anomalous weapon of mass destruction. I mean, yeah, obviously. A violent explosion destroyed the entirety of Midtown Manhattan, leveling surrounding buildings and severely damaging the other nearby areas within a 6-kilometer radius. The death toll is undetermined. A high number of Tartarian entities and demonic possessions have been observed in an 11-kilometer radius around the blast epicenter. Persons with confirmed connections to the Chaos Insurgency have publicly blamed the event on a global shadow organization. 9 days after that, SCP-179 established contact for a single moment, signing Defend before descending below the sun's surface and vanishing. Frequency of 1548 events has dramatically increased since this event, with at least 2 occurring per day. For an example, the next day, the radiation cloud fully obscures the night sky. Global amnesticization under the Ennui protocol is enacted by the Foundation and completed at 78% efficiency. Several paramilitary organizations, which include world governments and anomalous groups, take this opportunity to attempt to further their own personal goals. Joint Foundation and Global Occult Coalition forces have been assembled to combat these groups. Efforts are ongoing. 2 days later, SCP-2821, following a sudden expansion in size to a diameter of 1.7 kilometers, vanished. The nearby Lunar Area 32 suffered a minimum of 38 casualties and lost 10 anomalies from the expansion enveloping and destroying sections of the facility under the anomaly's different laws of physics. Based on readings from Minkowski space-time monitors, it is hypothesized that 2821 formed a wormhole leading to another region of the universe. This information to explain this newly formed hemispherical crater on the lunar surface is being disseminated. 3 days later, experimental Foundation devices began detecting tachyons moving at an undetermined faster than light speeds. Analysis found that these are likely a new form of 3417 transmission, though with major deviations from their standard contents. It says transmission contents have typically contain mentions of extraterrestrial civilizations and Orthothan mythological stories. This was observed until being abruptly cut off, presumably due to the radiation cloud. Further information is below, and 5 days after that, it was currently under review and it says NA and there's a transmission. SP-3417. All Orthothans here, all Orthothans must listen now. Unknown Civil 30. Stars lost, unknown unit of time. Ago the first invasion occurred. The gods were unprepared, never comprehending the fragility of the universe after its creation. Second city, lost. The extra-universal abominations invaded and the gods did not die. Their duty in protecting existence, transmission interference for 1 minute, would not have won without Orthothans. Unknown symbol 31 lost. The gods defended Ortothans in existence. Ortothans defended the gods in existence. Undated star system lost. When united, we are strong. 25 minutes of interference. 12 stars lost. The worlds must fight. Transmission stops. Joint Foundation and Global Occult Coalition forces have been mobilized for large-scale containment and threat neutralization operations. Cooperation with various governments to assist in cover-ups has begun, though these measures are hindered by the decisions of the Latvian, Estonian, and Georgian governments in declassifying documents on anomalous phenomenon and Cold War paratech. All major containment sites are now under level 5 high security lockdown until further notice. This picture says, adjustments being made to Seraph 1's thaumaturgic particle detector. Addendum 4, Experiment 215437. On June the 12th, 1999, it was determined by a unanimous 0-5 vote to enact a long-term plan to explore beyond the heliopause. Mission objectives were to confirm or deny hypotheses regarding extraterrestrial SCP objects and collect data on anomalous phenomenon beyond the heliopause. As such, the Foundation probe Seraph 1 was constructed, then successfully launched off on May the 9th, 2000. On January 27th, 2017, a 1548-1 event was initiated prior to Seraph 1 reaching the heliopause, forming the thaumaturgic symbols used in predicting the future. Following the 1 event, a 2 event was initiated and launched. This one, however, deviated significantly from normal trajectories and curved sharply around 100 astronomical units away from the Sun towards Seraph 1. Seraph 1 crossed the heliosphere 2 days before contact was lost from the intense radiation inside of the solar prominence. All information collected by Seraph 1 is currently under review and pending declassification. That's a hell of a thing to have be Addendum 4, because the implication of that is, okay, the universe is falling apart, starting at the sun. Whole lot of crazy things are happening. The Ortoth has walked out of a wormhole to provide protection to people. Everything's going to hell in a handbag. The cats and dogs aren't even living together. The mass hysteria is past that point. But Addendum 4 is implying that it's the SCP Foundation's fault. Because the implication here is in 1999, when they decided to send a thing out there to see what was beyond the solar system, something on the sun went, hey, none of that. And yeah, it sounds like this is entirely the SCP Foundation's fault. Which is to say, it is the O5's fault, which is probably why the top of the article is 056 gaining permission to read this SCP entry. Because the O5s are probably directly responsible for this. They may not have done it on purpose, but like, I mean, to give them credit, how could they possibly have known that 17 years after sending just to see what's beyond the solar system, it would make the sun freak out like this? Also, I'm noticing there's a 10 here now. I don't think that there was a series 10 the last time I did one of these. Don't like that. Anyway, that brings us to In Absence of a Perfect Medium. I was about to say, better not also be keto. What are all these? What is okay? We'll get to it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Instances of SCP-1549 are to be analyzed and flagged by Foundation web crawlers upon their creation. Domains containing frequently used key phrases generated in correlation to SCP-1549 are to be monitored for any suspicious activity and purged from all online archives and databases. Members of Mobile Task Force Kappa 10, Skynet, Boo 4, Debuggers, and Row 9 Technical Support are to work in tandem to safely quarantine all affected sites and data from public repositories. And this says a space connecting testing.com's associated 1549A area and Jammy's website.com's associated A area. And space leads to a file that says hallway 9 JPEG. If any reference resembling that of 1549 are detected, disinformation campaign procedures should be implemented immediately based on the publicity and nature of the reference in question. Locating person of interest 1549 is considered a high priority for all involved personnel, although the most direct and efficient methods of doing so are currently not known at this time. Description. SCP, that's a lot of stuff down there. SCP-1549 is the collective designation for websites containing an anomalous onload script titled belowaverage.js. Attempts to trace the location of the library used to run the script have ultimately ended in failure. Implementation of the code into 1549 instances allow a subject to physically enter their device's screen as an unknown form of periphery. This script converts the user's monitor or haptic feedback screen into a direct human interface device, HID. The action of entering one's screen must be voluntary. All attempts to force unintended interactions with 1549 have not yielded any anomalous effects. Subjects who are aware of the effect and attempt to interact with the web page will be temporarily compressed into a data medium that is interpretable by the system, allowing the screen to act as a portal into a physical locality that is defined as an extra-dimensional space, acting as a facsimile/tangible proxy of the website. In all reported instances of A, the space has been defined as a series of indoor locales with no visible exteriors or windows of any kind. Information media has been shown to present itself as physical copies of the data in question, and the text documents will appear as paper or books, while things like audiovisual media can be represented as a number of objects, including reels of film, vinyl recordings, and nondescript VHS tapes. How is this SCP not a video game yet? This sounds like the kind of thing that would, like, does this predate the existence of the backrooms? July 2021. How is this not a game? There's been so many horror game jams and nobody tried to make one out of this SCP? Anyway, on occasion, humanoid informational constructs have been found to manifest within the confines of A instance. These entities, designated B, are always found to act as an ancillary staff such as janitors or receptionists. All A locations are connected, meaning that any website running 1549 will have their corresponding A space connect to all other A instances, often through structures represented as blank hallways or ventilation shafts. When a subject exits the portal through which they entered, they will invariably exit through the screen associated with the IP or MAC address they entered through. However, if a subject exits through a portal associated with a separate 1549 instance/A location, they will be able to exit through any device accessing the 1549 instance as long as they can visualize the associated IP or MAC address of said device. If they are unable to exit via these means, they will ultimately return to A unhindered. And then there's a history of events. There's the beginnings of containment, the continued history, the appropriation of A, and then the final interaction with person of interest 1549. Okay. SCP-1549 was brought to the Foundation's attention on May the 10th, 2014, when a website titled blackmoonhowl.com was created. Foundation held web crawler AIC, KWR515 Bennett, and 101 Grusser were triggered by the use of the keywords used in the title and immediately reported the website to AIAD WebWatch Subdivision, which is also its own thing. Post-scanning for cognito and info hazards, of which none were found, the website was opened. The website was a simple text page presented in black 11-point font Arial on a white background. Its contents are described below. Hey you. Yeah, you. Okay, now that I have your attention, I'd like to direct you to some websites made by this prick I know. Normal mail, average videos, nothing to see here, testing, unlocal licensing, Jammy's website, not Arden's website, Gimme a Whale, People Zoo. They're portals. By entering, I did you a favor, so don't track me. You find me anyways. Let's see, fake page. Okay. Due to a lack of any mentions of the websites or their properties being found anywhere online, suppression of the websites was deemed a low priority code green, and furthermore would be an impediment to experimentation. Except for one unoffensive mention of normalmail.com by user Jaja2020 on the Something forums, asking if anyone else used this weird website, to which only one user named Normal Pearson responded with that. After the first exploration of 1549 and a close encounter with the presumed person of interest 1549, all users of normalmail.com received the following email. Subject: your average website. For the sake of user safety, we're going to keep things on the down low. For this absolutely normal website that does nothing interesting in the slightest. Got some visitors who seem to be interested in our website, so we're just going to keep things simple. Go to this link and download the plugin. In an hour, all websites made by myself will cease to work unless you have the plugin. Only share this with other established users. We don't want to start anything. We come in peace. We hope you do too. Also, fuck you, Pearson. Fuck you hard. With love, Jaja. Says. Link returned a 404 error approximately 60 minutes after the email was sent. SCP-1549 websites were modified to not load on any browser other than Google Chrome, and only when using the plugin linked named Normalcy on its Chrome store page, with the logo of a thumbs up. Following the development, the removal of current 1549 affected websites was downgraded to a non-issue Code Blue. Due to immediate willingness to cooperate and making the first move to compromise before any confrontation, locating person of interest 1549 was downgraded to a low priority Code Green. Edit, May 13th, 2015. All attempts to locate 1549 and their associates have so far been unsuccessful due to the use of a type of anonymity network such as TAR or Anonet. Operation Aggressive Networking was a plan to increase Foundation mobility using the portal abilities. The websites testing.com and not Arden's website.com were used as a base of operations due to their size, emptiness, and proximity to one another inside the A space. A large tunnel between the two portals was created and operations began. Using independently developed large 3 meters by 3 meters computer monitors across multiple SCP sites, transportation of MTFs and corresponding equipment overseas became a far smaller expense and was able to be accomplished in less than an hour in some cases. POIs encountered during use of the space were met with a non-interference policy due to 1549's initial cooperation. Continued history of containment. On November 18, 2014, the traffic between sites using A became heavy enough to require use of more than 2 portals. For smaller transports, Jammy's website.com and nothingtoseehere.com were assimilated into Operation Aggressive Networking. On the 29th of November, person of interest developed 2 new instances, JajaArtGallery.com and CoolNormalGames.com. These instances were neutralized soon after their creation. Within the hour of this action, the following email correspondence occurred. We're on good terms, so I thought that you'd let me create more websites. I will admit confusion at your behavior when I created new ones. They still require the plugin to function, which still only a limited number of people have, and I need my space, you know. A response, though not usually your style, would be greatly appreciated. With love, Jaja. And the response. This relationship has been held in good terms, and we must thank you for your cooperation in our procedures. However, an anomaly cannot be allowed to spread. The more websites exist containing your code, the more likely they are to be accidentally discovered. Your plugin is entirely non-anomalous, and it is possible that it could be replicated by someone studying your site's codes. Outcome becomes progressively more likely every time a new website is created, and that outcome will not be tolerated. Your original websites are currently staying up because of your willingness to cooperate and their utility to our purposes. We hope that you understand our position. Regards, Representative H. I understand, but hope that you would be more clear with me on your intentions and procedures in following interactions. I am the creator of your current transportation network. It would be nice if I was kept in the loop on these things. I will cooperate. With love, Jaja. Communications were minimal between November 29th and the 7th of May the following year, other than 4 update emails sent to accounts on normalmail.com detailing new additions that they had made to their 5 websites untouched by Operation Aggressive Networking. As Operation Aggressive Networking was expanded to include more individualized purposes, traffic through A began to peak at an estimated 800% more subjects passing through per day than when the operation was first introduced in 2014. Was estimated to cut down on over $600,000 in plane tickets, fuel, mailing, and other assorted overseas expenses per month. Directors of Operation Aggressive Networking had begun the project of developing a portal into A without the use of the websites. Researchers and physicists involved with other interdimensional projects had been gathered to create the Foundation Transport Network wormhole device and assume A as its base of operations. Development of extra-dimensional spaces able to connect to multiple places on Earth has so far been unfruitful and consequently abandoned. The operation was moved to assume 2 more portals associated with unlocalizing.com and average videos. A construction project began to expand tunnels into usable roads. Following email correspondence happened on the 7th of May, following the beginnings of tunnel constructions. Hi! Okay, what the fuck, guys? Average Videos was a piece of art. I made a movie theater that streams like a video website. Not like you guys allowed public use so many videos could get on there, but it was really fun to fuck around with me and my pals. When we're watching stuff, we have to make sure it's not during construction time, lest your drills and shit overpower the movie. And after you're done with your tunnels, which went through my lobby, mind you, the same is going to apply to making sure we aren't there when your trucks and tanks just decide to walk through like they own the place. Have you guys even stopped to take a look around? I mean, none of your people have even strolled through the aquarium over and give me a whale, or seen my AI testing and gladiator battles and people zoo. We send out updates, with scheduled events and shit. You can come. We'd love to see you guys there. You are welcome to join us. Speaking of, there's a viewing of Back to the Future tonight in Theater 6. That's the one furthest from your construction work, so the movie should be audible. Oh, I almost forgot. Remember when I said that I would like to be kept in the loop? Well, you didn't really tell me about this development. I get it. I'm not blind. I see more and more people are coming through. You need more space, but look, I could have made you more space if you had just asked. I mean, come on, guys. It's not that hard to just keep our relationship professional and well organized. It would be nice if you contacted me just saying. I would have no problem with you taking unlocal licensing. That's just another big open test website pretty much, but taking over the way in average videos unannounced is almost juvenile. You must know I spend a lot of time here. You could be a little more respectful of my space. With love, Jaja. And the response they gave was, we have an important date of high transmission traffic transportation upcoming that will require the use of another portal. The arrival of this information was sudden and required immediate action for it to be prepared on time. We apologize for the inconvenience. Too sudden to shoot an email? With apprehensiveness, Jaja. Appropriation of A. YouTube link. It looks like it's probably a Rickroll. Operation Aggressive Networking directors and operatives prepared for military takeover of A and detaining of POIs following the first test of Foundation Transport Network wormhole device. Lambda 5 White Rabbits was deployed and successfully secured positions in all 11 portals, and then proceeded to search A for any POIs. After none were found, modified Lang-Scranton Special Stabilizers, offshoots of the Scranton Reality Anchor designed to disrupt Class B information superhighway wormholes, were deployed. 5. The 9 active ones and the 2 inactive ones created along with Jaja Art Gallery and Cool Normal Games. And a proposed technological singularity that could act as a means of transfer of matter into informational construct. After 3 portals were successfully closed, all remaining 1549 created portals became inactive. Investigation revealed that all domains originally containing instances had become unavailable with the exception of normalmail.com, which was found to become non-anomalous. The following email was received 2 minutes after this event. Subject: cool. I have to assume this is a Rickroll. Let's see. Of course you realize this means war. Okay, Bugs Bunny probably. Operation Aggressive Networking ran uninterrupted until May 17th of 2015, when POI 1549 presumably created and deployed a means of generating hostile B instances. Notable instances were garb associated typically with Roman gladiatorial combat, whatever, and were equipped with swords, axes, and flails that glow purple and were able to shoot large, approximately 2 meters long and 5 centimeters wide, cylindrical projectiles at speeds in excess of 750 meters per second. Composition of projectiles was never able to be determined due to their property of dissipating after 10 seconds of existence. Initial barrages by B instances halted Operation Aggressive Networking for a total of 4 days, resulting in the deaths of 3 personnel and the wounding of 28 others. The instances appeared to aim for non-lethal body parts. MTF Lambda 5 located the spawning grounds of B near the inactive peoplezoo.com portal and filled the area with concrete, sustaining only 13 minor and 2 major injuries. Over the course of the next 3 months, similar B spawning grounds had been created and neutralized, stalling Operation Aggressive Networking 3 times before roadways between Foundation-made portals were fortified and guarded. By June 27th of 2015, Operation Aggressive Networking had reclaimed and maintained its function. Final interaction with person of interest on the 4th of July coming to a close. Well, we had a good run. I have attacked, you've attacked, it's all been fun and games, and really, thank you for letting me say that I have fought and had moderate success against an international covert organization. This will be a fun story to tell for a long time. Yes, grandchildren, I did assist in making the transportation network for a shadowy government organization that secretly attempts to contain slash destroy magic stuff. And then they took it away from me without giving me credit. How lame is that, Jimbo? I imagine that my grandson will be named Jimbo. Anyways, I'm over it. I'm over being angry. I can make new stuff. I just happen to make something easily found and exploited. Two aspects you never want to mix. You never did take me up on that movie date. It's still open, by the way. I'd love to get to know you better. Really, I don't think you ever saw the place as something more than a series of portals. Did you ever talk to my many AIs? Did you ever see the awesome creatures that I behind the glass over the aquarium? Did you ever see any of my friend's short films? No? Yeah, fuck you. You might not have noticed, but I spent months, fucking months, making just the code work. And then I spent months making the interior all special and shit. And then I made the websites. Introduced the place to my pals across the globe, and we met in person for the first time ever. It was magical, you shits. Fucking magical. And what happens? 3 days, man. 3 days in, and man, I wish I could say his real name and get you fuckers after him, but he'd know my name too, and we'd drag each other down. But fucking Arden Pearson and his permanent stick up his ass never let go of a grudge. Here we are. Who would have found out had it not been for him, who intentionally tries to walk into their computer screen? Lunatics, that's who, and nobody would have believed them anyways. So, you didn't stop to smell the roses. The year's worth of effort of roses, and you walked in here and you took over in a year. 2 years isn't a terrible run, but fuck you. Absolutely fuck you. Take a fingernail clipper and pull off your eyelids. Get smashed by a wrecking ball crane. Get a whole host of maggots teleported between your cardio muscles and let it writhe in the pit of your heart. Get unfucked and die a virgin. And most importantly, have a nice day. I sincerely hope you have a big savings account with love. Jaja. When passing into A, all portals were found to be surrounded by a large impenetrable wall of green bricks with a small bronze slot near their bottom. Next to the slots were signs reading, "For access to Jamie's websites, all you have to do is make 3 easy payments of..." I don't know what that amount of money is. Please insert physical money into the slot. Come again. Locating person of interest 5049 has been upgraded to high priority code orange. Says co-authored, but it doesn't seem to be tied to anything unless AIAD is something, because that seems to lead to something else. And this was, it says last edited on July 21st, and there's been 52 page revisions. This definitely seems like one of those things where if the Foundation had actually just tried to work with them, then it would have been fine. But as we know, the SCP Foundation tends to be a stubborn, stupid bag of dicks when it comes to anything useful. There's a lot of these SCPs they should not be containing. There's a lot of these SCPs they should be destroying. There's a lot of people that clearly would work with them, seeing as every now and then where there's a world-ending Peter entry, the other organizations that they hate will work with them to save the world. And sometimes the O5s are cool about that. This seems like one of the things that the O5 should have been a part of, because from the forays into SCP-001, which I haven't done in a while, at least half of the current O5s probably would have played ball with this person and not done what actually happened. Because I'm sure you noticed, it only named the mobile task forces. It didn't name any, like, project heads or nothing. It just said, the Foundation did stuff. And I think this was, hands down, so far, the SCP where they should have just worked with the guy and everything would have been Gucci. But now they owe infinite money because they were jackasses about it. Because that's what the Foundation does. They're stupid, stubborn jackasses that don't know how to do the right thing. They think they're doing the right thing, but they're only doing the right thing as far as they're concerned. And that's why you have easily destroyable keters fucking up the world. So, yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. The next episode is the one where we got at least 2 Dr. Wondertainment things. One of them is called Custom Pets, and the other one's called Shadow Paint Playset. I have to assume basically all Dr. Wondertainment stories are happier than that one where he ended up captured by the factory. So that'll be a fun episode. If you like this, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you want to click the bell, you can do that as well so that you're notified of future uploads. And I'll see y'all in the next one, where I most likely will not go off on a tangent about how stupid the Foundation is. Later.